What if the strongest fortress on Earth was never designed to stop an attack? What if it was designed to convince the world that an attack was impossible? Deep beneath a mountain in central Iran sits a facility that changed the way modern warfare thinks about protection. Not because of what it built, but because of what it forced the world to build in response. For more than a decade, one question haunted military planners, intelligence agencies, and political leaders. What happens when a target is too deep, too protected, and too important to ignore? The answer would require a weapon built for a battlefield that exists beneath the surface. A weapon carried by an aircraft created during the Cold War. A mission supported by thousands of people who would never appear in the headlines. And a strategic decision where even success could create a new danger. The hero of this story is not a bomb. It is not an aircraft. It is a mountain. Because Fordow was built around one simple idea: if you cannot defeat your enemy above ground, disappear beneath it. And for years, that idea seemed almost impossible to challenge. To understand why Fordow mattered, you have to go back before the tunnels, before the centrifuges, and before the confrontation. Iran's nuclear ambitions did not begin as a military project. In the 1970s, nuclear energy represented something very different: modernization technology, national progress. The United States and other Western countries supported Iran's civilian nuclear development, believing it could become a symbol of cooperation in the region. But history rarely follows the plans made during peaceful times. The 1979 Iranian Revolution transformed the country's relationship with the outside world. A government built on resistance replaced a government built on partnership. Then came the Iran-Iraq War, 8 years of destruction, cities attacked, soldiers exposed to chemical weapons. A conflict where Iran believed the international community had allowed its suffering to continue. That memory became more than history. It became the lesson many Iranian leaders took from that period was clear. A nation that depends on others for security can eventually be left alone. And that belief shaped the decades that followed. By the early 2000s, the world began focusing on Iran's nuclear program. At first, attention centered on facilities like Natanz. On satellite images, Natanz looked like a traditional industrial complex. Large buildings, open spaces, visible infrastructure. A target that could be watched. But then intelligence agencies noticed something unusual. A different site, a different location, a different philosophy. Near the city of Qom, construction activity appeared around a mountain. Roads leading nowhere obvious. Earth being moved. Patterns that suggested something was being hidden instead of built. The mystery was not simply what was underground. The mystery was why someone would go to such extreme lengths to put it there. Because mountains do not just hide objects. They change the entire equation of warfare. A normal military facility depends on walls. A mountain depends on geology. And geology does not surrender easily. In 2009, the secret became public. Iran had been building an underground enrichment facility inside the mountain. The world would know it as Fordow. Unlike Natanz, Fordow was not simply protected by concrete. It was protected by distance. Layers of rock, limited access points, a location chosen because conventional military power had limits. And here was the first major contradiction. The United States had some of the most powerful weapons on Earth, but power alone was not enough, because the problem was not creating an explosion. The problem was delivering that explosion exactly where it needed to go. A weapon that detonates too early fails. A weapon that breaks apart before reaching its target fails. A weapon that reaches the mountain but cannot affect the underground chambers fails. The mountain was not defeating weapons by fighting them. It was defeating them by forcing them to become something completely different. The part most people miss is that Fordow was never really a bunker. A bunker is something you protect. Fordow was something designed to survive. Inside were centrifuges spinning at incredible speeds. machines so delicate that tiny vibrations could destroy them. They did not need a battlefield. They needed stability, no sudden movement, no interruption, no shock. The deeper the facility went, the more protected it became. But here is the problem. The deeper something goes, the more dependent it becomes on the outside world. A hidden underground facility still needs electricity. It still needs ventilation. It still needs workers. It still needs access routes. The mountain created protection, but it also created dependence, and every dependency creates a possible weakness. For years, analysts studied those weaknesses, not with dramatic battlefield images, not with explosions, with patience, satellite images, construction patterns, changes in terrain, tiny differences between photographs, taken months or years apart. This was the invisible war happening before anyone fired a shot. Because modern warfare often begins long before combat. The battle begins when someone asks, "Can?" We understand the target before we ever attack it. And Fordow created one of the hardest intelligence problems imaginable. How do you defeat something designed specifically to disappear? The answer required a weapon unlike anything before. The massive ordnance penetrator, a weapon built not to destroy a building, a weapon built to challenge a mountain. But even this weapon created another contradiction. A larger bomb does not automatically mean a more powerful result. Size is meaningless if the weapon cannot survive the journey. The real challenge was not the explosion. It was timing. The weapon had to penetrate layers of earth and rock, survive extreme forces, and detonate deep enough to affect what was hidden below. The weapon was not fighting the facility. It was fighting physics. And physics does not negotiate. But even the perfect weapon would mean nothing without the system behind it. Because a 30,000-pound penetrator cannot simply be loaded onto any aircraft. It requires the B-2 Spirit, a stealth bomber designed decades earlier for a different era of conflict. A machine built around another impossible question. How do you reach a place your enemy believes you cannot reach? But the aircraft was only one piece. Behind every stealth mission is an invisible network. Intelligence analysts, maintenance crews, refueling aircraft satellite operators, commanders making decisions thousands of miles away. The weapon people see in the final moment is only the final link in a chain that took years to build. And this leads to the question that defined the entire Fordow story. Was the mountain actually protecting Iran? Or was it creating the exact challenge that would eventually bring the world's most advanced military technology against it? Because the deeper Fordow went underground, the more important it became, and the more important it became, the more attention it attracted. The fortress designed to disappear became one of the most watched places on Earth. Everyone was looking at the mountain, but the real question was what they were looking for. Because the future of warfare would not be decided by who had the biggest weapon. It would be decided by who could find the smallest weakness. Everyone thinks the Fordow story is about a bomb trying to defeat a mountain, but the real battle is about something far more complicated. It is about whether any nation can truly hide a strategic capability forever. Because mountains can block explosions. They cannot block time. They cannot block intelligence. And they cannot block the constant competition between concealment and discovery. That is the deeper battlefield beneath Fordow. When the world looked at Fordow, most people saw a physical problem, a facility buried underground, a target protected by rock, a military challenge measured in distance and explosive force. But the part most people miss is that the mountain was only the outer layer. The real system existed above ground. The scientists who maintained it, the supply chains that supported it, the electricity that powered it, the political decisions that protected it. A nuclear facility is never just a building. It is a network. And networks have weaknesses. A tunnel can be reinforced. A machine can be replaced. But a complex system requires thousands of connections to work perfectly. That changes everything. Because modern warfare is no longer only about destroying objects, it is about disrupting systems. The night any strike against Fordow would happen, the weapon itself would only represent a few seconds of action. The preparation behind it would represent years. This is the invisible battlefield, a satellite analyst studying changes in terrain. An engineer testing materials against simulated underground pressure, a pilot training for missions that might never happen, a commander calculating consequences that extend far beyond the target. The explosion is the final scene. The real war happened long before it. And this reveals the first major lesson of Fordow. The strongest defenses often create a different kind of vulnerability. A fixed target has one major weakness. It can be studied. A moving target creates uncertainty. A hidden target creates difficulty. But a hidden target that must remain in one location creates something else. Time and time can become an enemy. For more than a decade, Fordow was not simply waiting underground. It was being analyzed every road, every entrance, every visible change around the mountain. The fortress was protected by rock, but it was also trapped by geography. This is why the story cannot be understood only as a military operation, because the decision to strike was never just about destroying machinery. It was about changing calculations. For Iran, Fordow represented strategic insurance, a way to maintain capability despite outside pressure. For its opponents, Fordow represented a potential future crisis, a location where diplomacy, deterrence, and military power collided. The question was never only, can this facility be damaged? The bigger question was, what happens after it is damaged? This is where the hidden war becomes political. A military strike can change the battlefield, but it cannot automatically change beliefs. And beliefs are often what create conflicts. Iran's leadership has long viewed external pressure through the lens of survival. A history of revolution, sanctions, and regional confrontation shaped how it interprets threats. At the same time, Israel has viewed Iran's nuclear ambitions through the lens of national security. A potential nuclear capability near its borders represents a strategic transformation. The United States faces the hardest calculation of all, because possessing the ability to strike does not mean every strike creates the desired outcome. Power creates options, but options create responsibility. The lesson here is that military superiority is not the same as strategic victory. A weapon can reach a target. Armor can complete a mission. A facility can be damaged. But the final outcome depends on what happens afterward. Does pressure create negotiation? Does destruction create deterrence? Or does it create a stronger motivation to rebuild? That uncertainty is the reason underground warfare remains one of the hardest problems in modern strategy. The same lesson applies far beyond Iran. Around the world, governments study underground survival, missile facilities, command centers, military storage sites, leadership shelters. The logic is simple. If an enemy controls the sky, go beneath the earth. But Fordow challenged that assumption, because depth is not invincibility. A bunker does not remove vulnerability. It changes where vulnerability exists. The entrance becomes important. The supply route becomes important. The information surrounding the facility becomes important. The mountain does not eliminate the battlefield. It moves the battlefield into places most people cannot see. And this is where technology changes strategy. The future of warfare may not belong only to the side with the largest weapon. It may belong to the side that can combine information, engineering, logistics, and decision, making faster than anyone else. The weapon that matters most may not be the one that creates the biggest explosion. It may be the one that finds the correct target, at the correct moment, with the correct information. Because precision is not just about accuracy. Precision is the bigger picture is that Fordow represents a new era of strategic competition. A competition between hiding and finding, between protection and penetration, between the desire for security and the fear created by insecurity. Every underground facility sends a message. We believe something above us is dangerous. Every bunker, busting capability sends a different message. We believe nothing can remain unreachable forever. And that creates a dangerous cycle. The deeper one side goes underground, the more advanced the other side must become. The more advanced the weapons become, the stronger the motivation to hide. A defensive measure becomes an offensive challenge. Six shield becomes a reason to build a sharper sword. But there is another human dimension hidden beneath all of this. The people who designed Fordow were not simply building tunnels. They were building what they believed was necessary for their nation's future. The engineers who created weapons to defeat it were not simply building bombs. They were solving problems they believed could prevent a larger crisis. Technology does not create strategy by itself. Human fear, ambition, and survival instincts shape how technology is used. Steel has no intention. Machines have no ideology. People give them meaning. So did Fordow prove that underground facilities are useless. Number that would be too simple. Did it prove that the most advanced weapons can solve every strategic problem? Number that would also be too simple. What it showed is something much more uncomfortable. Every advantage creates a new challenge. Every fortress creates a new method of attack. Every weapon creates a new reason to adapt. The battlefield never disappears. It only moves. The question is no longer, can the deepest bunker on Earth be destroyed? The real question is, in a world where every defensive advantage eventually creates a new vulnerability, can any nation ever build a place that is truly unreachable? Because the next great military competition may not be about who builds the strongest weapon. It may be about who understands the hidden battlefield first. Do you think future wars will be won by stronger weapons or by the nations that can better understand and control the invisible systems behind them?